But there's a link between Lord Fool and the Pale King that I only just now noticed a week and a half, 2 weeks ago maybe, while making a fucking meme to troll Tim. Imagine that. Tim actually fucking helped me out on something. Now that bitch is gone. Hallelujah. When you get the achievement after beating the Colosseum, all of the fucking trials of the Fool, you get the Fool achievement. And on that Fool achievement, we have the large picture of Lord Fool. But, believe if you look directly above his head, there's also the Pale King insignia. So we have a small, minuscule detailed link, which of course is all about what the Look Deeper is about. Finding those stupid little details that get overlooked. Matthew Beloff, welcome, sir. Thank you. He says that he doesn't work for free. Laugh my ass off. The Geo isn't part of the Blade. I don't know what he fucking does with it. You shove it up his ass for all I care. So you've got a small link between Lord Fool and the Pale King through the achievement. Part of the game, but it's third wall breaking. So can we make that link? Can we make that assessment? Abso-fucking-lutely, because it's goddamn Hollow Knight. You have to look at every detail because Team Cherry put those details in those places specifically to show players. Like I said, if we look at the details, we can actually see what's going to happen. Again, with Millie Bell, perfect fucking foreshadowing. Sorry about that one. I have no clue what that was. Fucking glitch in the Matrix. Was Pale King associated with the Colosseum? Maybe. Davey, he was just into illegal fighting pits. Probably. He possibly could have been. I mean, Pale King was into a lot of weird shit, so maybe he was. Maybe they lived in some kind of an agreement that one worm didn't interact with the other, because we do know from Bardoon that there are more worms. And I actually really wanted to talk about Bardoon, and then I started to get into Bardoon, and there's a lot to unpack in that fucking, I don't want to say small package, because he's a big boy, he's thick, boy. He's thick. But there's a lot of lore to unpack with Bardoon in his dialogue. In the small amount of dialogue we get with Bardoon, there's a lot of lore to unpack, and I don't want to try and condense it. I would rather get into it fully. Also, again, let me know down in the stream if we're back, because I think we are, but I honestly don't know. So I could just be talking to nobody here. But there is a second person in that Colosseum that I want to talk about, and that's Little Fool. And Little Fool, he's our gatekeeper. He tells us what the Colosseum is. He tells us there's a bench there. But he does something else that's really unique in the game. And that's the fact that he is the only character in the game to directly mention our death. He actually has a piece of dialogue that says he believes he saw us fall in battle in the Colosseum. But then he kind of wipes it off, saying like he sees so many warriors die that maybe he was mistaken. Is there a chance that vessels were at any point sent to the Colosseum on the regular? So, funny enough, there's a look deeper going in beyond the Colosseum that talks about training that the champion of the Colosseum would give to vessels. If we look at Broken Vessel, we actually watch him flail around with his sword above his head in this quick, wild, crazy, get away from me movement. We can also see that exact same movement over with the Pale Lurker. When you get too close and she flails about to try and get you away to create that space. Is it a link? Maybe you're saying that's little far-fetched. But we can also see that she throws out expanding stars, just like Hornet does. So we can draw 2 moves directly to 2 of the Pale King's kids. And again, I'm not going to get too far into that one because I don't want to talk about Pale Lurker, but there is a Look Deeper on that again. I try and cover a lot of this lore in the Look Deeper series, and woo, that was fun. I try and cover a lot of it in the Look Deeper series. I try to give you guys an insight into all of that, and I try and make sure that you have those references, because there are possible links there, but you have to look for them. You have to pay attention to the small details. So if you'd like to learn more about the Pale Lurker, please jump over to that Look Deeper page and take a look there. What are you guys talking about? Hey, Hanny, we're talking about NPCs and the effects they had on us during gameplay and what they meant to the lore in general. But this dude tells us we die, which almost... What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? It almost makes our death canon. If an NPC actually acknowledges your death in a game, does that mean your death actually happened during the storyline? Because he does acknowledge it. And it's a very unique twist, because you would think that Steel Soul mode would actually be the canon mode. And if that did happen, that almost completely erases GG and gives us Jin, but that's another conversation. But those 2 characters were really important because they kind of gave us an insight into death and what it means in the game, and it also links parts of our world together again. And as we know, Hollow Nest is all linked. It's all done because of the Pale King. And Kingdom's Edge is literally the edge of the kingdom. So, was there an agreement struck? What did the Pale King have to do with that Colosseum? And because of that small detail, there's almost an undeniable fact that he was there at some point, but doing what we can only speculate. We're getting close, guys. We're getting really close to the end of this. I usually try and keep these an hour. I think I've got 2 more to talk about. And I want to draw some really cool points between these last 2 characters. Obviously, I'm going to skip the Abyss. I'm going to skip the White Palace. I'd like to touch on the Hive a little bit, but I'll be honest with you. The Hive is actually what started off the entire Look Deeper series when I wrote the write-up about Vespa. And we know from her character design, from her name, that Vespa wasn't actually a bee. She's a parasitoid wasp who pushed her way in. She became queen. The bees are loyal to her because of the pheromones she puts off. She's an invader. There's an entire write-up on it. If you haven't read that one, please go read that one. That's all I'm really going to say about Vespa. There is an entire write-up on the way, like I said, available first to Patreons, about a lot of that, not just in the Hive, but in all of Hollow Nest and what it really means. But we are going to skip the Abyss. There's not a lot going on down there as far as NPCs goes. The White Palace we're going to skip because there's two roughly NPCs down there, in there, on there, wherever the fuck the White Palace is in that dream fucking hellscape full of thorns and goddamn saw blades. We're not going to talk about the Pale King. So our last 2 we want to touch on, I've got to, out of just pure fucking love. Does that make enemies respawning when you bench cannon? Yes. Yeah, it does. because if we're playing in normal mode, those enemies respawning would happen anyways. And so, yeah, that's going to be canon. How's it happening? Those benches hold a fucking power. I've actually teamed up with somebody to get all of the screenshots of the benches because I have a theory on benches, but I want to see if it holds true. Once I see every bench in the entire fucking game side by side, because that's what I do with my life. Pretty fucking pathetic, I know. But I look at those goddamn details so I can regurgitate them back to you guys and hopefully you enjoy it. That's poor. Now we're going straight. But I have to, because of the love of my home, I've got to visit Deep Nest. And there was somebody down in Deep Nest that was, I've always wondered how much time passed between the Born of Hollow Knight and the actual game timeline. Ooh. Time is tricky in Hollow Nest. Time is so fucking tricky. Because apparently it's ages, but those bugs that are still alive that remember that, like Old Stag, they talk about ages passing, but Old Stag actually remembers and actually mentions the Pale King, that he never got a chance to see him, kind of implying that he was alive when Pale King was there. But Elderbug also mentions that he was a kid when all that went down and that he never got to see all of this. So that time is so convoluted, and I feel like they kind of Dark Souled us on that one, because Dark Souls just says, like, time is convoluted in the world of Lordran. Ooh, yeah, I'm a Dark Souls fan. Fucking imagine that. But I feel like they just kind of took an easy out with that one, and there is no straight timeline. Not a straight timeline given, but I think in one of my write-ups, I actually say that it's stuck. Hollow Nest is stuck in this perpetual cycle. And we're repeating events over and over and over and over again, whether we realize it or not. And that's another write-up. But I've got to get to where I'm going. And where I'm going is to my home. To my absolute favorite place in the fucking game, and that's Deep Nest. And for Deep Nest, there's only one character we can really talk about, and I want to point out something really specific with her that I actually found today while doing the research for this. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but not only do I do the Thirsty Thursday notes on a whiteboard, I do the talking points down here. I do a full write-up as well, so that I have information, I have facts, I go back through, I refresh everything from memory, so that I can give you guys a decent stream, I guess, because it's not a great stream, but I want to make sure that you guys have something that's interesting. And so I look at those details over again. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of research. But we're going to head to Deep Nest right now, and we're going to talk about Midwife. And Midwife has something that's really unique about her. Originally, of course, everyone knows she talks about Hornet and the gendered child. She gives us that piece of lore. If you're wearing the Weaver's charm, she also talks about how the Weavers were huge to Deep Nest and how they wrote down history and made weapons and spells out of their silk. And of course, that all gets us excited for Silk Song. But she goes on to say more that may be more interesting to actual Hollow Knight as to what we have right now. And you've got to look into her words carefully. One of her dialogue, she talks about Hera as if she, being the midwife, isn't actually a part of Deep Nest. Her actual dialogue, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to screw it up. I actually put it in my notes. Is that, and I quote, "cost her and her people greatly," unquote. She's talking about Hera and Hera's people as though she's not a member of Deep Nest. She's found in Deep Nest, but she says it cost her, meaning Hera, and her people. Hera ruled Deep Nest, so Midwife doesn't include herself in the members of Deep Nest. And I found that really interesting.